Hello, all me witches and geeks out there. I've been wanting to make videos like this for quite a while, and I don't know why, but suddenly out of the blue, I've I got it in me to make this video. I don't know what good it will do. Also, I tried recording this, just trying to start the beginning of this at least 3 times now, and it didn't work. So something is really fighting against me doing this. So, and yes, I'm using my Moto G stylus phone, and I'm glad that I fixed myself up because I got lipstick on, I got eyebrows on, I got eyeshadow on, I even have blush on and concealer and everything. I have to go in for some tests today. I'm really nervous about that. I'm really worried about the tests. I'm going to try to upload this and get it fully uploaded before I have to go here. So I really got to hurry up and start talking. Um, I've been wanting to make these videos for quite a while, and this video is going to be completely unedited. Um, my main goal is just to get this uploaded today and get it published. If I can, I'll take away the ability to comment on it because I know that there are nutballs out there that won't believe this stuff. But all you got to do is look around and see, and life itself will prove this the truth. And literally, life itself will prove this the truth. Okay, we've all heard of the prison planet, or this being a prison planet. Also, I'm using the phone's audio, so you're going to have to turn this up all the way. I am filming at the distance that I can manage to film at and still keep myself fully in shot. I can't get this camera to zoom out, so I have to actually I'm speaking as loud as I can, so I'm sorry to anyone who is hard of hearing. I had to turn my own phone's sound all the way up just to be able to hear myself. So in playback. So I apologize for that. So anyway, we've all heard of this Earth being a prison planet. Well, this Earth is a prison planet, and all you have to do is look around to see, look at the prejudice, look at the injustice, look at the, look at how everything is very unequal. That proves it right there. So I'm not here to prove or disprove. If people are not going to believe the truth, then what can you do? So I'm one person fighting an ocean. All I can do is put the truth out there and let people see it, And so that's what I'm doing. So reincarnation is real, but and this is what is going on here on this planet. This is a prison planet. It's very much a prison planet. I don't call it a prison planet. What this planet is it is a planet of kidnappers. It is run by criminals, and for criminals across the entire globe. That is proven in the prejudice against women across the entire globe. That is proven against the prejudice against victims. Anyone who is a victim of rape, who's a victim of beating, who is a victim of, false accusations, who is a victim of just and anything. And, anyone who is a victim of being starved, being beaten, being deprived of water, anyone who is a victim of, even just a victim of just plain old homelessness. This proves the truth that this is an enslaver's planet. And what those who rule this planet do is they go out and they kidnap entities, whatever you want to call it. And they, aliens, extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them, they kidnap, human beings and whatnot, and they put them on this planet to be used. And what they're using entities for, and what they do is they kidnap these beings and they extract their consciousness, you can say their soul, their heart, their spirit, from whatever body was they were residing in, and they extract their consciousness fully and entirely, and they imprison it into the body of a human being, because literally that's what they're doing. And then they use these bodies and these consciousnesses for all kinds of horrific things. The main thing that they're using, and and so what is this planet exactly? This planet is like Vegas. Think of it like Vegas. I actually I've gotten this straight from spirit. This planet is like the ultimate video game, as this deep underground reptile vril thing told me. It is literally the ultimate video game, and that is what they are using human beings for. That is why beatings and rape are so prevalent here. That is why, if anything, quote, good, unquote, is going to get done, um, it is only going to be done by those who are exceedingly rich, at least on the surface. And the main thing, and they're also using us, our human surface bodies, as lab rats. You know how we use lab rats and monkeys as experimentation before we even try it out on ourselves. That's what we are. That's what the surface bodies are. That's what us surface human beings are. We are literally being used as lab rats in medical experimentation before they try it out on themselves. And they have mixed DNA with us. Um, and that is why, there are people who have a hard time. Literally, there are two classes of people. There are the human beings that in the past were used mainly, they worked them to death and they raped them to death, and those are the more skinny people. And then there are the people that they literally hunted and ate for food, and those are the people that that are the chubbier people, where it literally, you give them one candy bar and they gain weight. It's outrageous, and it is in their DNA. It's nothing to feel guilty about. It's nothing to feel bad about. No one can change or control what your body does. No one can. And so, literally, the camera is making this look like it's lopsided. So, and there was a squirrel earlier. So if I'm looking at stuff, it's because of that. So, literally, that is what is going on. We are being used as things to experiment on currently. And, the old thing of working humans to death, raping humans to death, that is still continuing on. That is still continuing on. Now, as for the underground, literally every night when we hit REM sleep, and this is why we have to sleep for such, this is why we have to rest for such an incredibly long time. This is why it takes literally 8 hours for us to get a full night's sleep. And believe me, trying to get less sleep is not a good idea. That literally harms our physical body. They built it into our, just as they built it into our physiology to be fat or skinny, to be, quote, good looking, unquote, or ugly. That is built into our physiology. We can't change the way we look. We can't change the fact that we need 8 hours of sleep. But the reason we have to get 8 hours of sleep, or at least 4 to 6 hours of sleep, is because our consciousnesses are transferred out of our bodies once we hit REM, rapid eye movement. And the reason we have rapid eye movement is because our consciousnesses are transferred out of our bodies and transferred into clones in the center of the earth. And there we are absolutely tortured. And we are used for all types of just horrific, horrific things. Horrific things. And the people who say that they are beamed up by aliens, that is what they are actually recalling. There is something going on in their consciousness that the machines um, cannot factor out. They cannot calculate out. They cannot digitize out. They can't get these people to completely forget for whatever reason. Hypnotism doesn't work. They're changing the computer programming, because this is all electronic. This is all digital. This is all computers that they're using, technology. This is all technology that is far beyond. surface humans technology. That is the thing. So that is what is so important. I hope to spread this video wisely. I actually encourage people to rip this video and spread it widely, as long as you're not making fun of it, as long as you're not insulting it, as long as you're not making it out to be lies. And by the way, the other thing about this, and they will definitely edit this part out, the way that you can prove that that all of everything that I said here is the truth is the fact that they downplay and they make out to be liars victims of rape, victims of prejudice, victims of homelessness, victims of, lack of education, victims of, you know, literally victims of being a woman. Literally, if you're a woman, you are treated badly. If you are a black person, you're treated badly. And the fact that they try to make that out to be not true, the fact that they refuse to acknowledge that and refuse to treat women well, treat women as equals, treat black people well, treat especially black women as equals, the fact that they, you know, absolutely have to treat people who are homeless bad, just these things alone proves the truth of this video. It proves it. And so this was all a precursor to the fact that people do have memories of past lives. Well, I actually have a memory of being a quote angel unquote in heaven. And this is my story. This is my truth. This is what happened to me. Apparently I don't know what happened, but this proves that the Vril, the underground entities, let's just put them that way, the underground reptiles, what have you, that are controlling this planet and that are the criminals controlling this planet, they actually got into the higher echelons of quote heaven, unquote, whatever you want to call it. And they are controlling everything now, absolutely everything. And so if you ever see a planet with a snake around it, that is their symbol. That is currently their symbol. It actually ends up expanding to having four snakes around the planet. That is how far into the future I go. But initially, um, I was in heaven. I was supposedly wrongfully convicted of something. I don't know what, and I proved my innocence eventually. But what ended up happening was I ended up becoming a bookkeeper. And then after being a bookkeeper, I managed to be a judge. And I was ruling right alongside some guy. And then I had a case come before my court, which was a man on earth, I realize now, that was asking why. He had his children and his wife ripped away from him. He had all his family ripped away from him. And he was they killed his children right in front of him in horrific ways. They killed his wife right in front of him in horrific ways. And a whole pile of other absolutely horrific things were done to him, but that's what hurt him the most. And I couldn't wrap my head around what would cause such horrific things. What kind of an environment would cause something so horrific as that? What kind of an environment would cause something so terrible as that? And so I decided to, and I didn't tell anyone at all, I decided to temporarily leave my throne and try to figure out what type of an environment would cause such great and terrible injustice. And I ended up managing to get down here to Earth. And the last thing that I remember is I was on some slave captor's spaceship, and I was this very fat and large body laying on this um it was, how they have grates and grids. It was the floor of a cage, and apparent it must be my consciousness that was transferred out of that body. I was laying on my side dying, absolutely miserable, and I was transferred. I remember to this day looking down on that body, and I was surrounded by a black cage, and the bottom of that cage was in a very tight and small grid work, but I was laying on the floor of a black cage, and obviously I was transferred out of that body, and now I'm a human, and I've been a human for over I was actually tortured to death on this earth 3,000 years ago, apparently as an early Christian, because I ended up searching spirit, because according to Christianity, Christianity's only been around for by now about 1,500 to 2,000 years. 2,000 years ago, Jesus existed, but according to spirit, Jesus existed a long, long before that, and I personally was tortured to death 3,000 years ago as an early Christian. That one I remember my whole life. I've remembered that my whole life. So I am the kidnapped judge, I'm the missing judge, I'm the lost judge, and hopefully the notification that popped up on my screen will not come through to this recording. And so that's who and what I am. I've been through many, many lives. The last life that I lived, my name was Chow, like in dog chow, and I was a Chinese girl born to a woman who had at least 10 children. And in that life, I was ripped away from my parents, apparently at the age of 3, maybe, or 4. I was the youngest in the family, I guess, or the second to the youngest in the family. And I was kept in jail because the and I was gang raped in jail. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrific. And I was kept there till at least like the age of 9. I was kept there at least 4 years, if not more. And I was paying for my father's sins. The cop in town, there was like one cop in town, and he kidnapped me to get my dad to pay up on a gambling debt. The cop actually owed someone. He convinced my dad to gamble with him, and then my dad ended up owing him like $2,000 essentially, or maybe it was $4,000. I don't know how much, um, in gambling debts, and a price of money that there was no way my dad, being a destitute farmer, was ever going to make that money. There was no way. But somehow, some way, he eventually ended up paying the cop guy, and they let me go free. I don't know. And then later on, I ended up in that same life. I ended up being able to work as, I think, a basket weaver for some white American, or at least white English guy, some European guy who was very white of skin, who owned a factory in town, in the city proper. And I ended up making baskets for him or something, because apparently I have the automatic ability to and it weave now, but only weave very specific things in an assembly line type process. So, and believe it or not, when I ended up coming back home from that city job, because I ended up getting either kidney cancer or kidney infection, kidney disease of some kind, I ended up dying on the floor of my parents' dirt farm home. My mother was the one that owned the farmland, and she got it through family means or something, but she had to like compete against everyone else in the village for it. I don't know. I don't know. It was, but she owned this farmland, and she had at least 10 of us kids. And I ended up being kicked to death by my father because they couldn't, because immediately after I came home from the city, they wanted to marry me off. And I already knew that I was too physically ill to be married off. I didn't want to be married off anyway. So they were going to marry me off. And then I became way too sick to even go out. And my mother decided that I was depressed and that I had killed myself through depression, and refusing to get up off the floor of their dirt home. And she just decided that, I didn't want to be married off and I became too depressed to move and I wasn't going to be married off. And it wasn't that at all. It was the fact that I had kidney disease and I was dying of it. And that's why I came home. It was because I was dying of kidney disease. And apparently, in that previous life, supposedly my mom was a witch and she was doing witchcraft items. And she did some item to bring me home. But what she didn't realize is that doing that witchcraft, what brought me home was the kidney disease because I knew that I was dying. And so her her witchcraft actually made me sick, which is what brought me home. I wouldn't have come home otherwise because I was not going to be married off. I was going to stay working. And I actually had I thought that I was going to be able to marry you know, this white guy who was the head of the factory. And I thought I had a pretty good line in to do that, which I realize now I never did. I never did. But because that's what he was doing with all the girls that, in his factory. It was basically all girl factory because women are the easiest to use. But yeah. So my mom did witchcraft spells, apparently, even having the whole family link hands in a circle and essentially pray that I come home, essentially. Um, that ruined my kidneys, that forced me to come home just as she wanted, but it also ended up killing me in the end and not getting her what she wanted in the end. So she got what she wanted and not got what she wanted in the end. And through it all, she decided to blame me for my death, saying that I was depressed and didn't want to go out and do her will, which was go out and get married. So that was interesting. So that was the life that I had right before this one. And since I'm going to have medical tests today, and since I don't know if I'm going to live through the medical tests, um, this life, um, I was born, I'm also just tell the truth. I was born December 29th, 1979, in Fridley, Minnesota at 6:08 a.m. And so I was a night chart. Um, so Taurus is what really rules me. And apparently, I was given by an astrologer, um, a professional astrologer who got everything wrong. But he said that Neptune rules my chart. So, but in Neptune ruling my chart, it means that no one will ever believe me, you know? So that is why I can come out point blank with these truths and no one will believe me. Um, I was born an Olson. Or originally, I was born an Olson, Olson, not En. And my mom, she was originally born a Lefto, Lefto. So these are maiden names, not used any longer, which is why I'm giving them at all. Um, so it's cute. I have a niece. I only have one niece. She was born a dilly, like a dilly pickle. So I think that's really funny. Lefto, dilly. So apparently the Leftos are up in Quebec, Canada, because it's actually a French name. I don't know. So I was almost born a Lefto, Lefto. Um, but my mom dated a guy named Philip Cartier of like the watch business. So that's interesting. But so in this life, um, I was born a Minnesotan, and I lived in Minnesota till the age of at about 8, 8.5. My dad lost his job in, what was it, Control Data, which was a company that used to exist, and he ended up getting a job down in it was Yukon, Oklahoma at that point in time, in a place called Seagate. Or I mean, that's the job that he managed to get eventually. Um, so that was 1988 because I was 8 years old. So that was 1988. Um, and so when I was about 9.5 years old, we moved down to Yukon, Oklahoma. Um, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I was the only Yankee, and there was one other kid in class. I don't know what his name is. I can't remember it other than Vaughn. And he was the only black kid in class, and they made sure to get rid of him. And they did everything they could to get rid of me. And there was a teacher named Mrs. Ray. Now I don't know. I had in fifth grade, I had a teacher for morning. She was the English teacher, and her name was Roe. And for science and mathematics, I had a woman who literally admitted to being a witch. And I swear to God, she was not a good, she was like, she was like of the underground, the Satan worshiping, not good. And her name was Ray, Rae. And I tried looking these teachers up, and it's like they never existed. They never existed. I looked for them. I looked in old yearbooks and everything, and I don't have any of the yearbooks from back then because it was so bad and it was so terrible. And at the time, I was the only one with that last name in class. And it was really, I mean, if I'm actually healthy, I'm going to cut out my last name here. I'm going to do my best to take this video down and at least cut out my last name. Um, but yeah, yeah. So, and prejudice is real. I have had, and my parents, I realized looking back that my dad was severely abusive, and my mom was very abusive too, and negligent. She was negligence itself. And I have had an absolutely horrific life, and I have been absolutely very, very, very physically ill. And because Neptune rules my chart, no one has believed that I've been physically ill. So if I end up passing away from these tests today, at least this video will be online and will be accessible to me so that I can access this video in the future, which is my main goal, to be able to access this video in the future. And since I don't really have any viewers, I don't have any viewers except for family and a few friends who already know my name and everything. Sorry, I need to take a drink here. But since I don't have any viewers, I'm not worried about this going viral or anyone seeing this. So I'm going to put it out publicly. And, you know, if if more than my family watch it, that's fine. But um if it gets more If it gets more than the family views of about what was like 25 to 50, you know, that's my friend circle right now. 25 views, 50 if they watch it twice. So, which happens. So literally if this gets like 200 views or more, I'm going to go ahead and take it down and remove my name and remove other identifying information. But yeah, and when I say 200 views, I mean 200 views in, you know, like 5 years time or less, you know, cuz I I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, my family and friends watch this video several times over. Of course, if I pass away, then no worry about it. I mean, I'm not going to be taking it down at all. So, but there you go. Hopefully, I gave enough information to help myself out. And I ended up going to Lindsborg, Kansas, and finding out that supposedly, according to Lindsborg, Kansas, where all the Swedes live, in America at least, other than Minnesota. But, I don't know why Swedes would move from one cold climate to another. Lindsborg, Kansas actually makes sense. Moving to the hot south actually makes sense. But according to Lindsborg, Kansas, my last my last name is not a real last name. I mean, Oli's son, supposedly it's spelled entirely differently. So I'm not a true Oli's son, which is a terrible insult to my dad's father, which is where I get the last name, you know, of Oli's son, you know. So I don't know. Apparently, the true Oli's son is spelled with a whole pile of S's, a whole pile of O's, and a whole pile of E's. Like you need like a whole pile of E's in there, which is absolutely insane. And it's like someone had OCD or like some seizure stuttering problems when they were writing their name. I don't know. Why would you put like a million and one E's in there? I don't know. I think it's rather hilarious. But there you go. So yeah. Hopefully I can leave that in. I don't know. For the final edit. I might not. But yeah, I visited Lindsborg, Kansas, and I found out that my last name is a false last name, which is rather insulting to me. Um, you know, I mean, I'm a fourth Swede, fourth Finn. My dad's at least half Swede, half Finn, or at least that's the tail in the family. So I don't know, but there you go. So I if I ever can, I'm gonna get a 23andMe, and you know, I'm gonna get DNA testing, but I don't think I'll ever have the finances for that. Anyway, since this is at 30 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. I am the lost judge. I am the kidnapped judge. I am, which is why I've been so bent on, which is why I'm a sociologist, which is why I'm a sociologist at heart. I never managed to get the full out degree, PhD or whatever. Um, which is why I'm so big into politics, which is why I'm so big into justice, and which is why I also go by the belief and the term of I do not forgive, I do not forget. I believe in justice. That is my belief. That sums up my soul. I do not forgive, I do not forget. I believe in justice. Because in my mind, forgiving and forgetting allows evil to continue on and continue to exist. The problem with the entities in this world, though, is that they have human beings pay for their sins. They have other entities and other things pay for their sins. So instead of them being stopped, instead of them paying for their sins. And also, by the way, another proof that this is a prison planet, or as I call it, a kidnap planet. The fact that the saying here is that only slaves and only the enslaved are told there is good and bad, heaven and hell, right and wrong, yes and no. Those who are, in other words, only the humans are told that. Any one or thing that is not human is not told that there is good and bad, right and wrong, yes and no, heaven and hell. All is right and all is good and all is correct, no matter how immoral, sick, twisted, wrong, evil it is. All is good, all is right, and all is correct for those who are not enslaved, not human, for those who are the 1% and ruling this world. The only thing that is seen as wrong, as my Mrs. Rowe teacher taught me in school, is getting caught. She literally said point blank, the only thing that counts is not getting caught. Only the 1% would say that. The only thing that counts is not getting caught. So there you go. And only those who rule the world would even know that information. She said the only thing that counts is not getting caught. But if you get caught, ooh, are you ever going to be in trouble? Even those who did the crime right alongside you are going to have fingers pointed at you, literally. So, and my stomach's growling. This is getting on to the 40-minute mark. I gotta cut it off. So, there's a lot more that I have to say, but this is good enough for right now if I die from this procedure that I'm about to have. So, hopefully this will still be searchable and findable for me, whoever I get reincarnated as in whatever country. So, there you go. Bye for now.